Hey there, I'm Jeff Elkins, and this is the Dialogue Doctor Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Dialogue Doctor Coach Laura Hum, and we are taking questions from the community. It's a Q&A episode.
Still not skipping anything. All right. I'm here with Laura Hum, and we're gonna do the intro. As usual, I started the recording on her at a really weird time.
Always,
She
every
wanted to skip
time.
things, but I'm not gonna tell you what she wanted to skip.
Skip to the end.
skip
Skip
to-
to the end.
Skip to the end.
It's like your favorite thing.
Man and wife. Yeah. So
Marriage.
marriage is what brings us together today. Oh my gosh, that's like a
It's
perfect
actually
movie.
not what's bringing us together today.
No, it's not at all. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the intro. We have to do the intro. You already
the
distracted
intro.
me. You already distracted me.
Well, we can stop and start again.
No, I can't. I don't even know how those buttons work. Couple announcements in Dialogue Doctor World. First off, today we're doing a Q&A, and these questions come from the Dialogue Doctor community. And if you would like to be a part of the Dialogue Doctor community, you can go to dialoguedoctor.com/community or patreon.com/Jeff Elkins and join us for as little as $5 a month. It's fantastic.
You
Less,
get a lot for $5 a month too.
you get too much. You get too much for $5 a month. I'm just gonna say that out loud, and everybody agrees with me. Nobody's gonna fight that. $5 a month is less than one of my daughter's Starbucks trips to Starbucks. Less than one of them. So yeah. So
And I
don't
don't think it's just your daughter's Starbucks trips.
I don't know hers. I just go there. When I go there, I just get a black coffee.
Well,
it's
yeah,
pretty
but
cheap.
that's all you like.
Black and bitter like my soul. And she gets fancy
That
things.
never gets old.
It never gets old. It never will. Yeah, so that's our first announcement. Second announcement is they announced today I am speaking at the Maryland Writers Association meeting in October. I am a
Congratulations.
featured workshop.
Whoa.
Whoa, featured workshop.
That's awesome.
I'm the first featured workshop.
Look at you.
Yeah, which means I'm not famous enough to be a keynote speaker. Because nobody's going to read, oh, the Dialogue Doctor's coming and be like, oh my gosh, we got to go to that conference. That's not going to happen. But like people that don't know me, of course, they're going to say that. But people that don't know me are going to say that. But I do have good things to say. So they're like, you can be a featured speaker. So I think I get 2 conference hours. I think I'm speaking for like 2.5 hours. We're going to do a big like character build workshop. We're going to like go through all the aspects of a character build and then actually have handouts and like work through building a character right there in the room. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you're in the Maryland area, or you can be in Pennsylvania or Virginia or DC, if you're near Baltimore in any way, it's a full weekend. It's a whole Saturday and then Sunday afternoon conference. And it's always fun. So I come check that out. Come see me there. If you're gonna come, hit me up on the website or email me and be like, yo, Jeff, I'm going to be there. And that way we can say hi.
And you have to say it like that too. You have to say, yo, Jeff, I'm going to be there. Otherwise, Jeff won't know that you're going to be there.
If you don't send me an email that says, yo, Jeff, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
You
can't say hi, Jeff, or hello, Jeff.
No,
it has to
yo,
be,
Jeff, I'm
yeah.
going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next announcement is I am speaking at InkersCon, which actually starts tomorrow. So the day that we're recording this on a Thursday, InkersCon starts on Friday. Yeah.
But that's before this airs.
Yeah, it starts on Friday, but you can sign up late. It's a digital conference. It goes for a month.
Get the stuff.
You can get the stuff, yeah. So if you want to come see me speak at InkersCon, I'm doing a new talk, a talk nobody's heard before at InkersCon.
Whoa.
I know. I'm very excited about it. And they can't deny, they don't come on the podcast, so they can't deny if this is true or not. But they said after I recorded it, it's one of their best talks ever. So bam, look at that. crushing it.
Look at
Yeah,
you.
so people should go check out my talk at InkersCon. I'm a bad salesperson. They gave me an affiliate link. Well, first off, I sent out in the newsletter a link to sign up for InkersCon. Like I was doing it for like a month before they gave me an affiliate link. And then they gave me an affiliate link, and then I forgot to put that one out there. I'm bad at business.
No.
So
No, see, you're the opposite of bad at business. You were so eager to get it out
I
there.
was, I was so,
You preempted
yeah.
it.
I was like,
And then
guys.
by the time they got their stuff together,
Mm,
you had already blown through. See, it's all about
yeah. I
perspective.
was like, gang, hey, gang, hey, gang, hey, gang. Check it out. Somebody approved of me. Everybody should go say hi to them. Yeah, anyway. Um, yeah. Is there any other announcements? Happy Pride Month. Is there anything else we
Happy
need to
Pride
say?
Month.
I can't think of anything else we need to say. Do you have any announcements?
I
Anything you want to
do.
announce to the community? Go
I
for it.
do. Yeah. I am for the second time in a row, second year in a row,
Second year in a
doing
row.
participating in the AuthorTube Writing Conference, which
Yeah.
is a YouTube streamed conference for writers. My talk will be live on January. Oh, no, not January, June. June and January both start with the same
It's like,
letter,
man, you're
but
advertising
they're
this ahead of time.
different months. This month, June 28th at 4 p.m. It's a
Nice.
Saturday at 4 p.m., so hopefully a lot of people will be available and not doing something cool and
No,
not listening
they
to me.
should,
But
everybody should go check that out.
it's free on YouTube, so you can listen to it anytime.
Awesome.
I'm doing a like precursor to Hire Casey, which is the self-editing mindset. So I'm pretty
Fantastic.
excited about that.
That's really exciting. I'm pumped for
Completely
you.
terrified
No, whatever.
because
You're gonna crush it. What are you talking about?
I mean, well, like I know the stuff, but talking in front of people, oh,
No, it's gonna
and
be great.
talking to myself in my office with like it's different in a webinar when like people are talking back and I can like see their faces, but this is like just me talking to YouTube. There is a chat and they do provide a fantastic moderator so that there are questions and stuff, but
Nice.
it's a little
Your
terrifying.
picture's on the website.
Is it
Yeah.
our website?
No, on AuthorTube's website. Let me show
Really?
you. Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
Yeah. See? Look, I was like, man, I wonder who else is speaking. And there you are, right there. There's Laura Humm.
That's me.
Yeah, that's her. Her picture's on the
Oh, I
website.
did that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
me.
very
Oh,
exciting.
that's fun.
Keynote's really cool. It's Michael Laurent is the keynote speaker. That's awesome. He's fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah. And then Becca, Simon, Dale, Jason
nice.
Hamilton. Jason's been on the podcast before. But yeah,
Nice.
anyway, really fantastic speaker lineup, especially when we get to right here.
Oh, you're really nice.
Yay!
You're really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So
fun times.
that's my only news. I didn't have as much exciting news as you did, but that's my news.
Okay, great. Um, all right, let's kick off our questions. We have 11 questions. We might not get to all of them. We'll see how we do. Depends how long until you're frustrated with me.
I was going
So
to say
let's get
until you're like, Laura, enough with your words.
enough with this nonsense. All right, you want to go first? Are we picking
Yes.
questions for each other? Or like, am I picking questions for you and you're picking questions for me? How are we doing it this time?
How about I pick my first question, you pick your first question, and then everything else is the other person picks for
I
us.
might pick the question for you you want to pick.
Well, I know, but I want to pick it just to make sure.
Okay, wait. We can pause the recording. You can tell me what the question is, and
No, we're not
then we'll come back
pausing
and
the
I'll take it
recording.
back.
I don't know how to do those
Well, clearly I
buttons.
was lying. I know how to do the
You
buttons.
sit on a
Do
throne
you
of
know how much? Do you
lies.
know how much time I spent on Zoom? Oh my
I
gosh!
knew you were lying. If you hadn't been doing the opening, I totally would have called you out for sitting on a throne of lies.
And I probably smell like beef and cheese today because I made tacos for dinner. Um, yeah. So,
I forgot about that line.
smell
That's
like beef
good.
and cheese. You sit on a
Um,
throne of lies. You're not Santa. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, you can pick your first one. Go for it.
Okay,
Or wait, or we could use a random number generator.
fine. Use your random number generator.
Yes. Okay. What if it doesn't pick the number you want?
Well, then I will just wrestle you for it, which is going to be fun
That's
since
gonna be
we're both on
weird.
Zoom.
Yeah, seriously. Um,
I mean,
Oh,
obviously thumb wrestling because that is
okay.
the only muscle in my body that is actually strong enough.
Actually, I don't think I want a random number generator. All right, I'm
No,
done with
no,
that.
no, you did it.
All
You
right,
did
all
it.
right, all right, all
See,
right,
now you're
fine.
sad.
Okay, your question is number 10.
Number 10.
No, that's the
I'm
one I
writing a
wanted. I
series
want
of
that one.
YA fantasy novels.
Oh, okay.
Tradition. So, for those of you who can't see the question list, I just let Jeff choose a random number, and then I'm just reading the question I want anyway.
Well played. All right, go ahead. Go for it. I was like, wait, that's not number 10. Okay. My random number generator is stupid anyway. So I don't know why we need to play games. We could just answer the question. People aren't here for the games. They're here for the questions. What are
Are
we
they?
doing? What are
Does
we
do
doing?
you honestly think anyone listens to our question and answers for the answers and not our nonsense?
Not the nonsense.
Because honestly, there's like
Oh,
5 minutes of actual answers and like 75 minutes of nonsense.
that's true. That's
Okay,
very true. All right.
I'm writing a series of YA epic fantasy novellas. Traditionally, fantasy is guilty of info dumping, which slows the pacing, though some readers don't mind that for epic fantasy. I'm trying to create a more fast paced fantasy adventure that will hold the reader's attention, more like an action adventure or thriller, by making my writing more dialogue focused. What are some ways to convert world building narrative to dialogue without having characters over explain or talk awkwardly about things the characters, already know? And where's the sweet spot between frustrating your reader and having the characters either over explained or under explained about how their world works? I love this question. I was so excited when this question came up in Slack. And here's why I love this question. I love dragons. They're amazing. I love dinosaurs. I love dragons. I love, what are they called? Wolverines? I don't know, like the two-legged dragons. Yeah, not all dragons. We think of dragons. You're looking it up now. I know. Everyone thinks that dragons have like four legs and wings. Some dragons stand on their back legs and have wings. Anyway, I love dragons. I love books about dragons. I love movies about dragons. The problem is dragons almost always fall under the fantasy genre. And many, many, many a fantasy author likes to world build. And anyone who has ever heard me talk about any world building at all knows how much I dislike world building. Just tell me the story you want me to tell me and tell me the things that I need to know along the way. However, all of my book club friends love to read fantasy. So they're constantly like, hey, read this book. Hey, read this book. Hey, read this book. And I read it and they're like, what'd you think? Isn't it so great? I'm like, yeah, it's good. And they're like, but what do you mean it's good? I'm like, it's good. The characters are good. The plot's good. Well, what do you mean? Why don't you think it's fantastic? And the world building. Because sometimes there are chapters and chapters and chapters of world building. And there are lots and lots of people who love those descriptions. So if you are an author and you love to put that kind of description in your book, more power to you. There is an entire audience of fantasy readers who love that and who are leaning into that. But if that's not the book that you want to write, that's okay too, because there are other readers, especially cross genre readers, who crave the fantasy element but don't like the fantasy genre. And I am that person. So when I find an author who writes good fantasy without the backstory, I want to celebrate them. The book that I'm reading right now, the series of books, is Fourth Wing. People have been telling me to read the Fourth Wing series for I don't even know how long, and I've resisted and resisted and resisted, even though it's about dragons, because I was afraid of the fantasy, the genre. Rebecca Yarrow is a master, a complete and total master of balancing the backstory with the story itself. In the first chapter, the main character of the story is being put into a new college, if you will, where she is trying to earn her place to be a dragon rider. And her father trained her whole entire life to be a scribe in the community. And so she spent tons and tons and tons of time in the library. So when she gets nervous or when she gets upset, she repeats facts to herself in her head. The first challenge she faces is huge. And as she's going through that challenge, she's telling the facts about the world she lives in as she's handling this challenge. It was so amazing because I was learning about the story, but it was balanced equally with a terrifying event. It was perfection,
Nice.
just perfection. And it's hard, it's hard to impress me since I have started breaking down stories and seeing kind of where they go and how they're built. It's become like once I was going to say Alice, but it wasn't Alice, it was Dorothy. When she saw behind the curtain, it was kind of like, oh, yeah, the wizard isn't actually that scary. I mean, yeah, great, good power and all of that, but
He's
like
just a
once,
huckster from Kansas. Yeah.
right? So, but once you look behind the curtain, it can be hard to like really enjoy. Her book is fantastic. So, now that I have personally vouched for an author who will like never hear this or
She
whatever.
probably listens.
Yeah. Well, she's going to ask us to edit her next book.
She
She
probably
does not
listens.
need any help.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Though I will say, as much as I really like her writing, her large group scenes could use just a tweak. So,
Yeah.
I'll
Hey,
just send her some
Rebecca, we're
notes.
here. We're here for your large group scenes.
That's right.
We will help your big cast scenes.
Yeah, I can help you.
Yeah. Use
They're
more dialogue tags, Rebecca. They help in the
almost
big
perfect.
cast scenes.
Her dialogue tags aren't the problem. She loses characters in a large group scene.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
They're
tough.
hard. I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But we can help you.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the actual question at hand. Now that I'm done like fangirling over Rebecca Yarrow. My biggest tip for figuring out what needs to be there and what can wait is figuring out what part of the conflict is inherent to any conversation, any action, any story that doesn't matter where it's happening. And don't bother explaining those things, but then figure out what's important to the actual story and explain those things first in small bits or dialogue as much as possible. So that's the first thing is like figuring out the balance of what needs to be there and what do you want to put there just because you've spent hours obsessing over it. That's what you want, not necessarily what your reader wants.
How do you
You
know
look
if
like
it
you want
needs to be there?
it needs to be there if your story doesn't make sense without it.
Okay.
For example, in Fourth Wing, why this young woman is handling this challenge and what the challenge is has to do with the fact that she is going to military service to ride a dragon.
Hmm. Okay.
If I didn't know that, I'd be like, what are these crazy people doing? Why would anybody ever do this?
Yeah.
So she had to explain to us that there were right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
those kinds of details where if the situation doesn't make sense without the background, then you have to explain it. But if you just have a couple of people sitting around the dinner table having a conversation, you don't need to tell me 17 pages of where this dinner table
Gotcha.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
because the conversation and the dynamics between the people is all that matter.
Yeah. That makes
Right.
sense.
And not to say that these things like that you can't include some of them, but balance is the key.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing is like figuring out what needs to be there. Then the second thing is figuring out what your author voice wants to do with that information.
Gotcha.
Yarrow made a really smart choice by making it Violet's coping mechanism. So,
Hmm.
and she uses it throughout the whole series. Anytime she needs to put new information in, she just puts Violet in a tough situation and she starts giving facts out. It works great. It would get old, but she does balance it. Balance is also key here. So figure out what your thing is going to be. How are you going to do it? I've seen a lot of authors put it in like letters to other people, or um, somebody was telling me about their story. They were like watching a movie and the information was in the movie. You got to be a little bit careful with that because you don't want to just
Mm,
tell the whole story that way. Um, the other thing that you can do is you can put it in dialogue. The key to putting it in dialogue, though, is don't just have one character telling the whole story, especially if it's an event that they all know. You want to bounce ideas off of each other and be like, well, isn't that when? Or, oh, and then I remember that other thing happened. And this, like, let them have a dialogue as if they're equals whenever possible. And when it's not possible, have the person who's learning the information ask intelligent questions that push the story forward,
mm,
not just what happened next. If you have somebody telling a story and then other person's like, and what happened next? And then what happened? And then what happened next? You may as well just put it in prose.
mm.
So figure out what needs to be there, figure out what can wait, and then figure out how you are going to present that information in a way that feels exciting.
Yeah.
What do you want to add?
I don't think I want to add. I do have a question for you. Are you
Sure.
pro or con C3PO characters? And so by C3PO characters, I
Mm,
mean, oftentimes when somebody's writing sci-fi or fantasy, they create one of two characters. Both serve the same purpose. They either create the C3PO, who has a compulsion to explain everything, even if nobody needs to know it,
hmm
right? Like, oh no, it's Lord Vader, the head of the Sith and the ruler of the Empire, right? Like,
hmm
I didn't need all that. Like, so, but pro or con C3PO character, the other style of C3PO character is the character that doesn't know anything,
hmm
and so everybody has to explain everything to that character. That's the other, like,
Yeah.
the country bumpkin who's like, "What's that? What's
Yeah.
that? What's that?" Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
This
think?
happens a lot also in like cop dramas
Yeah, all
where,
all the time in cop
or
dramas.
medical dramas
Yeah.
where somebody needs to be explained the like technical jargon.
Yeah.
This is about, right? Like, and if you do it because that is a character that you want that people are going to fall in love with, great. Don't make that character the annoying person that nobody, that kid in the front of your class who like teacher's like, okay, if nobody else has anything, we can go 5 minutes early. And then that person who sits in the front seat is like, oh, but wait,
Wait,
can
wait.
just
Ooh,
one
ooh.
more thing,
Yeah.
right? Just one more thing. And I'm not talking about the people who actually have real questions. I'm talking about the person who asks the same question that it's already been answered twice,
Yeah.
right? Like if you were paying attention, you'd know the answer to that. If you're struggling, please absolutely answer your questions, or
Yeah.
ask your questions and get them answered. But yeah, so be cautious about creating those characters because while everyone knows they exist, they can
Mhm.
get very tropey and it can be a big eye roll for your readers. So they have to be a good example of one that I think was done really well is Data on the next generation of Star Trek,
Yeah. He's great. Great
right?
example.
Because he's charismatic as a computer being can be,
Hmm.
the information that he provides isn't a dumbed down version of what we need. It's the critical information that explains everything that you need to know. He's
Yeah.
the link between the elements. So if you're going to do it, be intentional about it and don't use it as your crutch to be like, well, they all need to know that the reason that we're going to this place is because that's where whatever. Like, use a map to describe that. Use,
Yeah.
right? Like, there a lot of times there are ways around using it, but if you need it, it's okay to have it. Just be careful with it.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good answer.
Thanks.
Nice.
I liked your follow-up question. That one really made me think a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about I read this week I read Spoiled Brats by Simon Rich,
Hmm.
which I'm really into Simon Rich right now. I can't really explain why, besides the fact that he's brilliant. Um, And he's got a short story. I think it's called Sellout. I think that's the right one. But the idea is that there's a man in 1907 that gets accidentally pickled, um, and then is awoken in um 2017 uh, to find his great great grandson in Brooklyn, who is Simon Rich. The author writes himself in as a character, as a villainous character, by the way. And
Wow.
then, but it's great because the man from 1907, Herschel, knows nothing about the modern world. And so it's a great way to get a ton of world building in and also commentary on the world because he's a character that like you have to explain everything to. And then he gives what the commentary comes from his opinions on it. So it can be, I think, really well done, but I hate C-3PO, so don't do C-3PO.
Well, and that's the
He's the
thing is
worst.
like you either love those kind of characters or you hate those kind of
Yeah,
characters. So create one that's likable.
yeah.
But I actually just pulled up the first part of Sellout, and as you were talking about it, I skimmed it. I'm excited to read that.
Oh,
It was
it's
in the New
great.
Yorker.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah.
That's where I found it. That's fun.
I highly recommend Simon Rich. If anybody needs some comedy in their life, his books are incredible. I'm on my fourth book of his. Glory Days was the first short story book I read. It's amazing. Uh,
Nice.
this one's a great one. I read his novel. I think Miracle Workers maybe is the name of it. It's about angels in heaven who are in charge of minor miracles, but they're not allowed to bend any of the laws of nature. So they just like, if somebody's gonna like, if they want to keep somebody from doing something, they like make sure they get bad food. Like they like destroy their refrigerator so that their food goes bad, then they eat it and they get sick and they can't go to work. And that's like how they like do their minor miracles. Anyway, it's a really
That's
funny book.
fun.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Well,
But
after I
highly
finish
recommend.
reading the last book of the
The
Fourth
Fourth
Wing
Wing.
series
Yeah.
that is out, I will
I
pick one
hear
of
so
his
much
up.
about that series. I hear it's really good.
And
I haven't touched it, but I hear it's
yeah,
great.
when and I usually like
Rebecca, if
refrain
you're
because
listening, don't be mad. I'll read it. Go ahead.
well, like I was very disappointed in Game of Thrones. I read the
Why?
first first of
Was it?
all,
Wait. Okay. I mean, there is like a gazillion characters, and the plot is like very winding and doesn't go anywhere. And he does create like new things out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's just like, "Oh yeah, and this part of the map exists that I've never talked about and ignored." But besides, and he totally forgets one of the Stark children and just leaves them to disappear into the West with a dog, and then barely mentions them, except for like one sentence in the last book. But besides all of that, why don't you like Game of Thrones?
yeah, all of that.
I'm a fan, by the way.
I know. I know. And so many people like rave about them, but I always felt so like I always felt like I was trudging through it. Like there was so much like I did watch like I don't know, maybe the first 3 seasons on HBO because they cut out so
Oh,
much
they
of the
cut so
trudging.
much. They
Well,
cut
they had
so
to
much trudging.
because it's like it's so much. I felt like I was
Yeah.
reading Tolstoy and everyone knows how I feel about Tolstoy. So,
This is going to encourage some people. You know what I love about Game of Thrones is he's clearly a discovery writer, and the beautiful thing about discovery writing is nobody knows where it's going. He doesn't know. We don't know. It's fantastic.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it defies all patterns and conventions. It's just a like, yeah, oh, I killed her. No, now she's alive underground and she's a tree monster and she judges people and she pulls them underground and judges them. Why is that? Why is that happening? What is that? No, no,
It
don't
doesn't
explain.
matter.
No, it
Doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
Trust me. Trust me, it's
This is the way it
important.
is. This is the way it
Trust
is.
me, it's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah.
But see, that's the thing is like a lot of these books and stories get so much hype, and then I read them and I'm disappointed.
You're like, this
So
is
I like
weird. Yeah,
try to stay away from anything that has a huge hype or that I don't stumble upon just generically.
yeah.
That's not the word I want to use. Organically. That's the word I
Organically.
want to use.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a
Good
bad slip
save.
up
Good
on there.
save.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Um, but this one,
Except
my
yours, Rebecca. Rebecca, we love your books.
I
Yeah.
know. I wasn't sure
Call
I was
us.
going to. I know, that's right. I can help you with your large cast scenes.
That's right.
They don't need much
Oh.
help. Just a couple of lines
No,
here
they're
and there.
perfect. They're
I can
perfect.
help you. No,
We just want to give
a
you an hour
lot.
session and tell you how great you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
I will offer my services for free for the first hour.
Yeah, I don't expect
Beyond that, you
much.
have enough money that
Just
you
my
can
name
pay
in the
me.
liner notes. Yeah, sorry.
Ooh.
Maybe on the back page, a picture of me, of you with like me in the far background. Anyway.
And you said you were bad at this marketing stuff. But anyway, I was book clubbing this one with my niece, and
Nice.
yeah, I
Okay.
promised her I would read it with her, but she's on chapter like 8 and I'm finishing book
That's
2.
why I don't book club because I
So
read things when I want to read something. I just need to read it, and I don't want to wait for you.
I know. Okay,
Yeah.
so what number are you gonna do? Should I
I
pick
don't
a number
know. Yeah,
and
you
you
pick a number.
okay,
I
do
don't want
number
to pick
10.
numbers. Do number 10.
Do number
Okay.
10 because that's the one I was supposed to do, and
And
then
I
you were
like it.
all
Yeah, but
sad
people
because
aren't gonna
that's the
like
one
my
you said you
answer.
wanted.
Um,
I mean, I just said that a an award-winning novel was needed some help. I think people are going to like this one. So do you want to read the
you've
question or do
also
you want me
called
to read the
Hemingway
question?
worthless. No, I'll read it.
I didn't call
Question
him
number 10.
worthless.
Oh, you
I said
felt it
his
on the inside.
book, not him. I said his work was a waste of my time.
Fair. Okay. Question number 10. How do I know if my writing is any good?
This is a good question.
It's a good question. Um, you do not because it is not. Um,
Wow. That is not the direction that I was expecting you to go.
uh, good is a relative qualifier that we give to things that are generally accepted by our tribe or our like or people with common taste. So when you ask, is this any good? The immediate question needs to be for who and in comparison to what? Because there is no objective good. There just isn't. Right? You can read a Pulitzer Prize book and a Pulitzer Prize, not surprise. Oh my gosh, I keep saying it. You know what I'm talking about. You can read one of those. I read one this year and I was like, this is bad.
Which one?
I don't even remember. It's all prose. I get why it won. It tells the same story 5 times from 5 different perspectives, or 4 times from 4 different perspectives,
Hmm.
and each perspective is written in a different POV. And and I mean like not just like a different character, but like the first one is like a omniscient narrator, like looking down on the story, and it's all
Hmm.
prose, and it's like it's a slog. And then the second one is like third person close, and so I get why it won. It's very creatively done, but it's a bad read. It's like the first like several chapters are just him telling you what happens to this couple as if it's like some kind of, weird story time at the library. So anyway, there is no good. And so hopefully that answer is freeing to some of you because you can stop asking that and start asking other questions like, does this satisfy the itch that I'm trying to satisfy? Or is this marketable? By the way, those are two different questions. Or um, is this covering the themes that I want to cover? Or is this to a quality level that makes me happy? Or um, will my wife like it? In my case, the answer is always no. Or like so like there's other questions we can ask that actually have more measurable results than is it good. And the problem is that's just to go back to my original answer, is it good can never actually be answered. Yes, if you're asking is it good, you've already lost the is it good battle. Does that make sense? If you're
Hmm.
asking, is it good? You've already lost. You're never going to say yes to that question. So just because people who believe their writing's good don't ask if it's good. They're just like, I'm awesome. So, and I know several of those writers, and I wish I could be them. I wish I could. But if you're already asking, is it good? You're never going to answer the question yes. So just go ask a different question. Yeah.
Wow, you went very philosophical on that.
I did. Yeah. I saw the question. I was like, I want to answer that one. Look, I've been really sick for a week. I've had the flu. I warned you off mic before we came on. I'm in a little bit of a depressive state. So some of these, if I get a question, it's likely to be very existential and very like, Nietzschean. There is no horizon anyway. So yeah, that's how all of my answers are going to be done. All right, let's pick another one for you and get
All
away
right.
from this before I drive
I
everybody
was gonna
nuts.
lean into that, but go for it.
Which one
All right.
do you have a follow-up
No, just
question?
pick.
Okay.
No, no, just pick for me.
Sorry, excuse me.
Surprise me.
Before I mentioned sick, I usually try to mute the mic, but I missed it that time because I was reading questions
It was good. You
for
you covered it.
Laura.
It was good. I didn't hear it.
Okay, good.
Oh my gosh, you put them all together. Why is it always my fault?
People don't
That's all
know
right.
that. Okay. Question 8. I didn't even
Question
read
8.
it. I just picked a number
All
because
right,
it's at the top of
question
the
8.
page. How
How
can
can
I
I?
know? I get to read your questions. How
Oh,
can I
now you
know?
get to read them?
Did I not do that before?
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Do it. You're doing it now.
How can I know? This is two people who have been friends for 20 years should not do a podcast. Question
Or
number
maybe only people who've been friends for
question,
20 years.
question 8.
Oh,
How can
wait,
I
wait. Hold
know?
on. No, hold on. Hold on. I gotta time that out. You said two people who've known each other. I said two people who are friends.
No, I said friends. You said none. How can I know
I don't think
how much
so.
to trust my reader?
Roll back the record.
I don't know how these buttons work. Question 8. How can
They're
I
all have
know how much to
lives.
trust my reader to get it? Where's the balance between telling them too much and creating nuance and mystery in my story?
Well, I like this one too. This kind of goes along with the answer to the first question that I
That's
did.
why I picked it.
That's not why you picked it. You picked number 8. You didn't know what it was. Roll back the tape. I love this.
I
I
don't know
could
how
win
those buttons work.
every argument if we just roll back the
We
tape.
just roll back the tape. We just have tape. Rolling. Tricks on you. I'm not recording this. All right, go ahead.
Oh, I had to click the okay. This is being recorded. Wow, I'm gonna start tallying how many lies you tell today.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay, so your reader getting it and you creating nuance and mystery in your story are two very different things. Your reader getting it is your reader being able to understand and go on a journey with your characters. Nuance and mystery are intentional obstacles that you put in the way of the reader's experience because you want the reader thinking about the answer to that question as they are going on the journey with the character. So things like not explaining fully who a character is that your main character knows really well does not create nuance and mystery. It creates burden for your reader. Not revealing a critical detail to the story until late in the game because you want to create mystery that is something that is preventing your readers from understanding what is happening can also be a burden. It can be done really well, like in The Sixth Sense. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it, he's dead, right?
Oh
Like
man, you just We've you say spoiler alert. You have to give people time.
they can pause. And honestly, if anyone doesn't know he's dead by now, then
I'm
they're not
watching
going to get
those.
it.
I'm watching those with my 15-year-old Jude,
Are you?
and he had no idea.
I
And it
didn't have any
was,
idea when I watched it either. That's why I love Shyamalan so
yeah, it
much.
was fantastic to watch him
Yeah,
discover it. I think because
yeah,
like that movie's so old, like it's now the generation
yeah,
right now doesn't talk about it. So
right.
we were watching it, and I told everybody in the room, I was like, nobody tell it.
I mean, it's the
Yeah,
beauty of it. And again, a surprise like that, to be able to pull that off all the way to the end, brilliance,
yeah, it's
right?
great.
Because then you start thinking about it and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? But in order to pull that off, he had to explain everything
Yeah,
else. He didn't hide the fact that there was a kid who could see dead people, right? Like
Yeah.
he didn't hide that. It wasn't a shock. What was a shock is that we missed the most obvious detail.
Yeah.
But we can do that because everything else is explained. So when you're balancing between what information should you help your reader along with and what you want to hold back as a reveal, is ask yourself, why am I holding this back? How is this improving my reader's experience? And is that burden of thinking about this thing worth the payoff that you're going to get in the end?
I really like that
M-
question. Why am I holding this back? It's a
yeah,
great question.
most of the time, once you weigh the balance of pulling the reader's attention away from your main story for
Hmm.
the benefit of that reveal, most of the time it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a story like Shyamalan's Sixth Sense. I guess he just directed it. He didn't write it, did he?
He did write it.
Oh, he did write it. Okay, well, good.
Yeah,
I'm
he
giving
writes,
credit to
I
the right
think he
person.
writes all of his movies. And
Nice.
they're all amazing. Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
Unbreakable, The Village, The Last Airbender.
I didn't watch The Last
It's
Airbender.
terrible.
Okay. He did Signs too, didn't he?
He did, yeah. We're
I
watching through
loved
them as a
Signs.
family this summer. So every once
Nice.
in a while as a family, we pick like just one thing to like watch through,
Yeah,
especially
you did
since
like the Marvel universe a couple years
we
ago.
did all the Marvel universes a couple years ago. We did all of the one point we did all the Lethal Weapons. We like, we just watched them through
Mm,
slowly.
nice.
And Jude requested that we just did all the Mission Impossibles to prep for
See,
the
I
new
would
Tom
have
Cruise movies coming
recommended
out.
all the Jurassic Parks
We
because
haven't
there's
done
a
all the
new
Jurassic
Jurassic
Parks.
Park
Yeah,
coming out this
we haven't
summer.
done those. But
Yeah.
Jude really wanted to. His favorite movie was The Village,
Mm,
and so he really wanted to watch all the M. Night Shyamalan movies. So he's
nice.
seen now uh on The Sixth Sense, Signs, in The Village, and then I think this Saturday we're watching the Unbreakable trilogy, Unbreakable,
Nice.
um,
It's a,
Split, and Glass.
yeah,
Yeah, so we're watching all three of those this.
yeah. They're good.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it.
Yeah.
They're really great. And I think I haven't seen, I've been told that M. Night Shyamalan has had like a second wind and like his new
Hmm.
movies are really great. I haven't seen any of them. So I'm very
Mm,
excited about.
nice.
There's one
I
called
think he
Beach, I
did.
think. And yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Beach was his. I think he also did Lady in the Water, didn't he?
he did Lady in the Water. I love it, but it's not one of his best.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't
there's one called
remember.
Fear he did that just came out recently.
Cool.
Yeah, he's done a lot recently that are supposedly really good. So
Nice.
I'm pumped about.
Cool.
My teenagers have seen those. I haven't. So I'm excited about
Nice.
that. Yeah, anyway,
Well,
that's way off the topic.
they're gonna go,
Sorry.
nobody tell dad.
Yeah, they will.
Okay,
They will.
so
They like to watch me get scared, so they'll totally
now
do
that
it.
you interrupted me, to get
I'm
back to the
sorry.
answer, no, I'm totally kidding. I just want to reiterate that if you need one big payoff at the end, if you're hiding one thing, it's like magic. Misdirection. If you want that, if you want them looking left, point to the right. That's how you're going to get your big reveal.
Hmm.
So be intentional about what you're holding back and make sure that it's the holdback is worth the reward. As we're talking about readers getting it, I also want to note, Rebecca, this is for you. If you have a million characters, when you're bringing back a character for the first time, it's good to say Nolan, the healer,
Yeah.
because we haven't seen him in 47 chapters, and you have characters, and you have dragons, and you have just tell us who people are. Just give us that little hint to remind us, even if they were in the last chapter saying, and I looked to my sister and Mira said, and then we know.
Yeah.
So that's how you help your readers get it. Sorry, that was not the answer to the question, but I wanted to shove it in there
Yeah, no, that's
because
great.
I
Yeah.
want Rebecca to
We need
come
to
to
give
us for
Rebecca
help.
as much help as we can. She clearly needs it. Come on. All right,
All
next
right.
question.
Oh, I have to pick one for you.
Well, I guess so.
All
Yeah, you
right.
don't have to. You can just
No,
keep
I'm going
answering
to.
all of them. Your first two
Pick
answers have been great,
I'm gonna
so
pick
you
number
can just
three.
keep going.
Your first answer was great.
Oh, okay. Number three. When querying spelling. Oh, okay. When querying a sorry, I didn't need to read that part of the question.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I've been very sick.
You've been using this. I've been very sick, very conveniently when you tell lies. And okay,
Hold on, I have to choke.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh.
All right.
Okay. Are you better now? Can I read you this question?
You can. The real question was my coughing real, or did I just do that to
Oh,
gain sympathy in the
I know it
conversation?
was lies, so you
Okay.
could get your answer prepared.
All right.
All right. When
I still haven't read the
querying
question. I don't know
agents,
what you're
I'm
talking about.
reading it to you.
Yeah.
Shh. When querying agents you've already pitched at a conference, knowing that they already know something and they've asked you for something, what do I include?
It's a good question.
It's a very good question. And
So
I don't know the answer, which is why I picked
it
it for you.
seems silly because it's like, wait, they already asked you for something and you're just emailing them back. Why don't you just be like, yo, here's the thing you asked for? Um, Part of it is because they've likely, if they met you at a conference, they've likely met 100 people at that conference. So try to find one interesting detail about yourself that the two of you discussed, right? Or something about yourself that like will help them remember who you are. I am Jeff. I am the guy who lied during our query session all the time. Um, I am Jeff. I coughed on you during the query. So don't do that. Make it something that they want to remember. Try to say something memorable about yourself that they'll remember. You
About
know,
yourself and not about your book, right?
and not about, I mean, or about your book, whatever you think is
Okay.
going to help them jog the memory of like, hey, while we were, and then make sure you explain why you're sending it. While we were there, you had asked me to send you this and be like, here it is. Now, ideally, this doesn't always happen, but ideally, if you meet them on Friday and they ask you to send them something, ideally you're going to send that on Monday, right? Like that's the ideal. It doesn't always happen because sometimes they're like, look, I really want to see that, but I feel like you need to cut it down from 260,000 words to 80,000 words because that's a real novel. Not That's not true. You have a 260,000 word novel. I don't care. So anyway, sorry, man, rambly today.
There
It's
is no good.
just bad. There is no good. It's whatever,
There's no good.
Look, yeah. There's just reader expectations and the expectations if you have your own art, and hopefully those align. So focus. Dang it, Jeff. Okay, so remind them of who you are. One sentence about that. Restate what they ask you for. One sentence about that, and then send it. Ideally, the sooner you can do that after you talk to them, the better, because we want to get immediately on top of things. But if it's not possible, if they're like, you know, cut this thing down by half and then send it to me, and I'd like to read it then, maybe remind them of the conference and date where you met them. Like we met at this place at this time. I was the person who we talked about blank. You had said that you wanted to see my novel if I could get it cut in half. I worked with a developmental editor. I cut it in half. I'm here. It is. I'm sending it to you now. I'd love to talk more. And I would always end this. I think this is just good practice in any sales call because when you're talking to an agent, you're selling um, leave some kind of action item behind, right? Like, hey, can we talk? Could we have a phone conversation, or how can I follow up with you on this? Or like, leave them don't just be like, and here it is, goodbye. Leave them with a question so that they need to respond back to you, so you can get a conversation going. Because the goal is to get a conversation going. That's my 2 cents. Would you add anything to that?
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's my 45. Then it's 45 cents. That's my 45-cent answer. Um,
Why is that 45 cents?
because you said it was amazing, and so it's more than 2 cents. I,
I would have made it more than
all right,
45. It was at
you
least
get
50.
question number 11.
Number 11. What's lucky number 11? When is it time to stop revising? Oh, this is a hard question
I gave this one to you
because
because you're the pro editor. So I
because I'm
gave
the
this to
pro
you.
editor.
Yeah.
All right. So, when is it time to stop revising depends on what your goal is. If you are actively writing your story, it's time to stop revising when the story is strong enough that the plot points make sense and you can move to the next plot point. If it's your first draft, you're going to have to go back from the beginning anyway. Don't spend too terribly much time making every character voice exactly what you want it to be, because likely, especially if you're kind of a discovery writer, your characters are going to change and you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to reformat the front. If you aren't 100% sure about what your themes are going to be, but you know you've got a good story in your head, focus on getting the story out so you can figure out where you want to highlight the themes. So if you're actively writing, your revision time should be pretty short. I talk to authors all the time and they're like, I just got to get this chapter right so I can move on to chapter 2. You're most likely going to rewrite chapter 1 anyway. I hate to be the one to break that to you, but most of us, when we're writing, we have to go back to the beginning when we get to the end because there's something we have to inject or infuse. And that's okay. It's part of the writing process. If you have the whole draft and you're going back through and you're finalizing things for your final version, you want to make sure that all of your characters sound distinct from each other, but consistent within themselves across chapters. You want to make sure that your plot points all make sense, specifically as it relates to your character growth, but also for your subplots. You want to make sure that your author voice is what you want to present in this particular story. That means you're using a balance of prose and dialogue that feels comfortable to you. If you are a fantasy author and you want to write an entire chapter of backstory, and that is your author voice, do it, lean into it, forget everything I said in the beginning, because there is, and this is what you were saying, Jeff, about there is no good. There are people who love that, celebrate that, figure out who you want to be and put that down. So if you're happy with the character voices, if you're happy with your plot points, and if you're happy with your own author voice, then it's time to stop revising, because I guarantee you, you are going to go back and you are going to find something that you want to change the next time you read it, because good art is never finished, it's abandoned. And Jeff Elkins told me that, and he is the dialogue doctor. So we know it's true, except if he said it today, because today is sitting on a throne of lies. But
It's actually Leonardo da Vinci that said it, so it doesn't have to
oh,
be tied to
well,
me
okay,
and my
there you go.
reputation. Yeah.
All right. So, but it can be really hard to know when to stop revising. If every time you read it, it feels like there's a lot to change, then the question becomes, can I do this by myself or do I need to get help? Sometimes you're revising and you're revising and you're revising because you know it's not where you want it to be, but you can't figure out how to push it that step forward. And that's when I would recommend getting help. Get somebody you trust to read it. There are tons of episodes where we've talked about beta readers. We've talked about how to find the editor that's right for you. Um, you know,
Mhm.
talk to, go to one of these conferences where you can pitch your story to somebody and let them tell you. There's lots of ways you can get help out there, anything from free to very expensive. But remember, you don't have to do it by yourself, but if you are doing it by yourself, the place to stop is when you're comfortable with your voices, when you're comfortable with your story, and when you're comfortable with your voice.
Love it. Good answer.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I have nothing to add. I think you did great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Next,
going to give you
let's
number
do another
9 because
number
it's the only
9.
one on this page that isn't striking through and it's making me crazy.
Oh, how do I
All right.
push past competent writing to create something memorable? Sorry, I read that on top of you.
That's all right. I was going to read it. You read it. It's good.
How do I push past something competent? How do I push past competent writing to create something memorable? Okay, so um, we have these. There's this story that gets told that's a trope that we see all the time, especially in like inspirational sports movies, where the player that's good has a moment of greatness, and everybody stops in awe and watches it happen. It happens in real life too. Like I remember in the last Summer Olympics, I was watching the men's basketball team with my two of my teenagers that love basketball. And in the last game, there was this last couple minutes of the game where Steph Curry just proved that he might be the greatest shooter in the history of the sport ever. And ended the game. Well, I don't know if it was the last shot of the game, but one of the last shots of the game shot a impossible 3-point shot over a giant man, like literally a giant. And he just lofted that thing up there like it was nothing. And so I and when you walk away from that being like, wow, in in amongst the great people, he is great. And so how does that happen? You have a person who has been working very hard in the same way that everybody else works really hard, but then found something unique and special about themselves and completely leaned into it. So as writers, we often write to patterns. We mimic the things that we love. We reproduce the art that has inspired us. We write to genre, which genre is just a pattern of reader expectations and emotional journeys that readers love. And we write to those patterns. We write to formulas. We write to like I write to Save the Cat all the time. I love it. Um, I like books and movies that are written to save the cat. So I write screenplays and books that are written to save the cat, right? Like so. But when we figure out what it is about ourselves that we potentially do better than anybody else in the world, or that we can do better than anybody else in the world, and we write to that thing, that's when our work becomes great. And so, and I'd also just say, there's another question out there of like, how does John Henry beat the train, right? Like, how do you beat AI writing? And you don't beat AI writing with speed. And you don't beat AI writing by being the best at the pattern. That's because the AI we have right now is a pattern replication machine. That's what it is. It understands patterns faster and better than we can and reproduces those patterns. So, um, if you want to write something that stands out in a world of being filled by AI art, be yourself in a very genuine and beautiful way. And that's how you move past something competent to something memorable. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic and so completely philosophical. I think that is, no, I think it is
Should get more sick,
wonderful.
Jeff.
I, I don't know.
uh,
I don't know that the world can handle too much sick Jeff. But no, I think that's really great. I think that this idea that like the story that you need to tell inside of you is the story that you need to be telling. I think it's something really great. And that's the piece.
yeah,
So,
and it's just, and I like we could go through examples of how like authors that right now that stand out do that if that helps people. Like I would say, I love Friedrich Bachmann. Part of the reason I love Friedrich Bachmann is nobody right now writing sets up a wounded character as well as he does, and then places that character in a community that heals that wound as well as he does. He does it better than anybody else. And his books, even if they're about hockey, crush that thing. And he seems to know it. And he just does it over and over again. Like I just started reading his book Friends, which is his new one out. And it starts off with like, hey, I understand. Like I would say the first chapter of Friends is him as a writer going, I understand about myself better than anybody else in the world that when I write a wounded character and I pay that character off with community, I heal that character with community. You are going to murder yourself to get this book. And that's he's the best in the world at it. And he just keeps leaning into it. And as long as he does, we'll live it out. Like, I used to read Grisham as a kid, and he used to, it doesn't seem to anymore, used to have a deep understanding that what made his work great was a everyday person in a terrifying situation that had something to do with legal stuff. The legal stuff was way less important than we thought it was. It was really
mhm.
an everyday person in a terrifying situation. Every one of his books that are great, that are deemed great, are that thing. He knows how to write that thing better than anybody else. He just leans into it. Right?
Mhm.
Like he just crushes it. So I think that's the key. I think the hard thing What's the quote from Ratatouille? Anyone can cook. This is it. Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great. And I think that's when we're asking how we achieve greatness, we take big risks and we go against conventional understandings in a way that is special about us. And that's how
Mhm.
you find greatness. Yeah. You got to be Steph Curry shooting the 3-pointer over the Giant, right? Like he knew in that moment, I'm the greatest shooter in the world, and I will take this risk over this giant man because I believe that this is what I do. And that's where you find greatness. This is what I do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I will add to that, for every Steph Curry there is out there are hundreds of people, thousands of people who think they are, but aren't willing to put in the time, the effort, and the energy
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to reach that greatness. So if it's not, if it might take you two, three, four books to find your thing, and that's okay,
It
right?
might take
Like
you a
not
hundred.
everybody. Yeah.
There is something in the the it's not the arrival, but the pursuit of it, which I know is
Hmm.
a little tropey, but there is there's the joke of like he was an overnight success after 15 years of hard work, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not like to the world it might feel like you arrived on the scene with something great, but like to you, that great moment was just another step in your story of you pursuing what's unique about your art and
Hmm.
like finding what's unique about your art. And so it's the pursuit of what's unique about your art that might someday pop publicly. It may never pop publicly, but it's the pursuit of that something unique about your art that is actually the beautiful thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. I am philosophical tonight. This is
So
nice.
philosophical, philosophical
So
Jeff.
philosophical. Yeah, seriously. I'm gonna find a philosophical one for you so I don't answer it. Uh
Except that you're going to find a philosophical one and I'm going to
it's
just
gonna be
logic
like,
it.
how do you
I'm,
use dialogue tags? And I'll be like, well, dialogue tags are an existential problem.
I
I'm just
know,
kidding.
no, that's the thing is you, every one of your existential questions, I've been like, well, logic says blah, 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 blah,
That's
blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah,
That's right. Yeah.
because I am a robot. And
Oh,
you would have answered the question about, I don't know, whichever one I answered, and you'd have been like, well, philosophically speaking, so
that's
and
right.
so
The
said.
problem is there is no spoon. Okay.
God, you love
I
that.
haven't said
Oh,
that quote on the
I know it's
podcast
been
for
so
years
long.
on purpose.
I don't think it's been
It's
years.
been a decade at least. Okay, for you, question 6.
Question six.
How do
What's
I
question
write to the
six?
emotional payoff and set up a solid ending to the story without making the story predictable?
Oh, I didn't see this question. I love this question. Okay. Sorry, I got to bring it back to Rebecca one more time.
The
You
question
don't.
is there actually an ending? I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Having a predictable story is not a bad thing. Everyone thinks that predictability is bad. Most people like some level of predictability. We like the sun to come up. We like the lights to go on when we flip them on. We like our chair to remain solid when we
Yeah.
sit in it.
Yeah.
Now he's being philosophical.
Romance readers don't read 1,000 romance books because they're all radically different.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. The trick to this is to make it yours and to make the story so impactful that your readers cannot look away. I knew what was going to happen in the fourth wing on about page 10. I'm using an e-reader, so I don't know, figure out where that is. But she captured me, so I had to follow the story. I had to see how it came out. I had to see the predictability because the story of an underdog who finds the strength to succeed is an amazing story. But how many stories can we think of? I mean, Rocky did it 5 times. Like,
Mhm.
how does somebody who continues to win continue to be an underdog? We don't know, but Rocky makes it work, except for number 5, and that was a little bit weird. But still, right? Or was it 4? I think it was 4 because 5
The
was the
Tommy gun.
newest one. Yeah, yeah, 4 was
Yeah.
the one that was. Anyway,
I think 6 is the newest one. We
is
can't
it?
get caught up
I
on
don't know.
this.
Sorry,
We've
we
got a
can't. We'll
timeline
we'll be
tonight.
there. We'll
Well,
be there
yeah, this will
forever.
go on forever. Okay.
We have to have time for your philosophy lessons.
Oh my gosh. Who gave me a microphone tonight? This is bad.
You started this.
I
You
did.
created
I
this
just I
channel.
did this to everybody. I
Okay.
imposed this.
So the emotional payoff comes from creating characters people want to spend time with. When most people are reading because it is something they want to do, which means it is taking away from other things that they could be doing. In order to do that, you have to make your characters likable enough that your readers want to spend time with them instead of their living, breathing family and friends. How do you do that? You write a character that you want to spend time with over spending time with your family and friends. Think about the story, the growth, think about the challenges that you've faced in your own life, and find a way to write them into your story. Find a way to think about all the things that have been enjoyable in your life and write them into your story. Use those elements of your own life, your own friendships, your own relationships, your own heartbreaks, your own love stories, and use them to write your story because people want to spend time with you and people want to spend time with other people. So if you can capture that in a story, it doesn't matter if it's original because most of the time it's not going to be 100% original. And that's okay. Lean into the predictability, make it your own, and make the character somebody you want to spend time with.
Nice. Good
That's it.
answer.
That's all I've got.
Good answer.
Okay. I'm going to give you this one.
Oh
Yes.
man.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
No, I can do
Because
that one.
it's
I
too,
can do it
no, it's
fast.
too,
I can
it's
do it
so,
fast.
you're
I
going to
will
be
not.
so
I'm not. I'm going to be
philosophical.
super
Okay.
not philosophical.
All
All right.
right.
Question 5. How do I know if my story is working? Well, so what is working? I'm just kidding.
There is no spoon. It's
So
like when I was watching the Olympics with my
with
kids.
my kids, there was one time I was walking in a grassy meadow, and a bird landed on a flower. No, I'm just kidding. So, how do I know if my story is working? This is a really good question. I think we all ask every time we're writing a story. So I think one thing is if you find yourself asking this question, don't be don't be dissuaded that like you're doing something wrong. This is a common question. So don't be discouraged by this question. Practical things to know if your story is working. Thing number one is take a step back from your story and write out a one sentence explanation of every major scene or every chapter. If you're writing I tend to write in chapters. If you're writing in chapters, every chapter. If you're not writing in chapters, you're writing scenes, every major scene, and then read that one sentence and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, your story isn't working. If it does make sense, it probably is working on some level. Another practical thing you can do is chart out your character's growth arc, right? At the beginning of the story, my character is this. At the end of my story's character is my character. I want my character to be this, and then go through every scene in the story and be like, is my character moving toward the growth arc? Am I showing acceptance or denial of who I want my character to be in every scene? And if you're not, then your story's probably not working. If you are, if you're like, yeah, no, this scene is where I'm challenging my character to be this and she is not. This scene is I'm challenging my character to be this and we get a glimpse of her being that. Then like if you can do that with your scenes, your story's working. And if neither of those work for you, and you're still like, I don't know if my story's working, then it's probably time to hire an editor and hire a developmental editor to read your story. Like, hey, can you read this for me and tell me if it's working? Or if you can't pay for a developmental editor, um, ideally you have a writing community around you. I would not give somebody pages and ask them to read your book. That's like giving somebody a puppy. It's not nice. It's not kind. Nobody asked for that puppy. That's not okay. Um, what I would do is say like, hey, I'm going to buy you dinner. And when I buy you dinner, I'm going to sit down across from you and I'm going to tell you my story. And you need to tell me if it's working or not. And that's a better way to do that than
Wait a
handing
minute. You
somebody your
don't
book.
expect them to buy you lunch?
What I get away with Laura is referencing when she first read my book and she bought me lunch and gave me notes. Um, yeah, what I get away with is not what I would recommend to other people. Do what I say, not what I do. Unless I'm lying, then don't do that.
I don't know. If you can
Um,
get away with it, well done.
that's true.
And then
Um,
in a couple of years, you can start a podcast and get that person to come
to
on
come on the podcast,
randomly.
yeah. The key to getting away with stuff like that is to be really poor. That's how you get away with that. So yeah, so you're like, you can eat. I'm just gonna sit here with a glass of water.
Or
So
ask your friends who are know-it-alls and want to share all their thoughts with
that's true.
anyone who listens, but
That's
also
true.
is humble enough to know that their opinion doesn't
Yeah.
actually matter.
But I do want to come back to this practical thing. I am serious. Don't give people pages of your book. Don't do that. That's not like unless you're paying them to read it, don't do that. It- Ask them, can I have an hour of your time to tell you my story? Can I talk this through with you? Right? Like don't unless they're like unless you're swapping pages, if you're like, hey, I'll read for you if you read for me, that's different, right? Like, but don't just hand people pages of your book. It's not they will be kind and they will tell you like, yes, I would love to read this for you. And they might be a really nice person and mean it, but it is like handing them a pet they didn't want, right? Like it's like now this is also your responsibility. So I just recommend if you want somebody to read your book, pay them. But you know, there are like swaps you can do with people, stuff like that. I don't want to say like don't ever do it. I just with fear and trembling. Um, okay, see, I can give practical answers.
I know, that was crazy.
Look at
My
me
last
go.
answer was a little bit philosophical. Yours was a lot logical.
Logical. All right,
Maybe we're all right.
we've
We've got
got
three
two left,
left.
three left.
Three
We have
left.
like
Yeah.
10 minutes before you have to go do an office hour for the dialogue dash.
Yes.
We got to crush these out. Which
Okay.
one do you want? Which one do you think you can answer quickly?
Okay. So let's do this. You do two, I'll do seven, and we'll both do four.
Oh, fair. That's good. Okay. You want to go first?
Sure. Are there differences between demonstrating character growth in inner dialogue, character dialogue vocalization, and actions and choices? And is there a situation where one stands out better than the other? The answer to this question is yes, and all of the above. So, the way your reader gets to know your character is through their dialogue, through their actions and their choices, and their inner thoughts. You have to use all three throughout your entire story in order to be able to convey that this is an emotional experience and not just a robot going through. Though Murderbot, which is now on Apple, which
It's a fantastic show on
is it?
Apple.
I
So
haven't
good.
watched it because the book was a little ugh for me, but
You'll like the show
Jason's
better
watching
than you
it.
like the book.
Will I?
You
Okay,
will,
I might
I
check it out.
promise. Yeah, I know what you
Okay,
like. You'll like the show better than you like the book.
all right. Are there explosions?
There's
There were
lots of
explosions.
explosions.
There were explosions in the book.
There's lots less inner thought than there's in the book.
Mm,
There is inner
nice.
thought. There's a running narrator voice, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not as dense as it
Philosophical.
was in the book. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
good.
So yeah, is there a situation that stands out where one is a better choice? If your character is alone, there's probably going to be more inner dialogue than vocalization. If they're with other people, there should probably be more vocalization than inner dialogue, given the situation. But you need a combination of those. And I'm going to throw one more in there, and that's body language.
Hmm.
You also need the physicality. And it doesn't just have to be tilting their head, clenching their fists. It can be their heart was pounding, they felt butterflies in their stomach, especially if you're talking in a first person. You get to have those physicalities. But yes, absolutely use all three throughout your entire story. The more of these you put in, the closer your reader is going to feel to the character emotionally.
Yeah, that's good.
Bam.
Damn,
45 seconds,
way
except
to
for
go.
Jeff's interruptions.
Yeah, I know. I ruined it. All right, question two. Do you have any advice on how to write movement without using words directly associated with the action? For example, the phrase "the leaves rustled around him." Can this phrase serve as a substitute for "he turned, he spun, he twirled," or even "he levitated"? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to use phrases creatively to signal different types of movement to your readers. Yes, that you can use like movement around a character as opposed to a character moving. Um, I don't know that that substitution you gave, dear dialoguer, makes sense because the leaves are moving in the first sentence and he's moving in the second. So they don't substitute directly for each other. But there is if you're having movement for movement's sake, and what I mean by that is a lot of our dialoguers, this one in particular, I know because we work together a lot of our dialoguers write dialogue only first drafts. And they end up having long conversations. And one of the things I'm constantly telling them as I'm editing is, hey, don't forget to come back in and add the physical surroundings of what's happening. And I think that's where this question comes from when it says movement is like, is this a solid substitution for painting the space and time around the character while I'm in the midst of a lot of dialogue? And yes, it is. It's great to paint the world around the character. It's a really good way to give us a visual image of what's happening while in the midst of dialogue, so that like while characters are talking, you can give us a visual image of their space and time. I think it's good. I think where I would be careful when you're describing the world in a scene is make sure the world you're describing aligns in tone with the emotional setting of the conversation. So if you have a sad conversation and then you're like, and a boy rode by on a bike honking his horn, well, that doesn't, like, that's weird. Don't do that. Be like, and a woman walked by, weeping into her hand, and I thought, everyone in the world is sad at once, right? Like, so that, like, that kind of like, you want that's these are terrible examples. People are like,
They
no
were
wonder Jeff hasn't ever won
fantastic.
any writing awards. He's a terrible writer.
No,
So
that's
yeah.
not what we're thinking. I was thinking about the philosophical that you chose that the woman was sad, and instead of like the child holding the red balloon is so happy,
Oh my
you
gosh.
went with dark and sad.
Duncan said, you know why I had a cry in your head? Because a minute ago I coughed, and I turned the mic off and I coughed, and as I was coughing, I coughed into my hand, and I was like, what if it was like a Western and I like came out with blood? And I was like, like they all have tuberculosis in
They
Westerns.
all did have
Somebody's always like coughing in
tuberculosis.
their head. Yeah. It's always
Yeah.
like blood, and that means this character's gonna die. Anyway, so I'm not dying.
Predictability.
I just have a cold. So yeah. So anyway, that being said, yes, you can use movement of the world around you to break up the dialogue in your story, uh, but just make sure that that movement aligns with the emotional tone you're going for in the moment and doesn't distract from it.
Can I add something to that? I know we said the
Please.
next one we were going to both do. So one of the things in this question is, can the phrase serve as a substitute? So yes, absolutely. You can do anything you want. It's your book, it's your voice. You have to be careful, though, that if you're using poetic or metaphorical language, in this case, the leaves rustled about him instead of he twirled. The leaves could be rustling because of the wind,
Yeah,
not
that's what I
because
was saying
he
earlier.
created the
Yeah,
wind. Yeah.
yeah.
So I would
It's
just say
action.
that if you're using metaphorical language as your descriptors, know that your reader might not get it. I
Yeah,
actually was just editing with someone, and they wrote this beautiful opening scene, and I totally misinterpreted it because it was like I just assumed something that was not on the page at all. And we were talking about it. And he's like, wait, wait, wait. Are you saying? I was like, yeah.
yeah,
It's like, that's not what I was going
yeah,
for. I was like,
yeah.
oh, well, it
I'm
was
saying that
beautiful
man killed that
nonetheless.
baby. That man murdered that baby, according to your first passage. Yeah.
No, it was nothing like
I
that.
didn't write it. He wrote it, but that's what happened. I'm just kidding.
That's not what
Nobody's
happened.
murdering
Anyway, so
babies.
just
Yeah.
just know that your metaphors may not be as clear to your reader as they are to you. So, and that's
Good answer.
okay because there needs to be poetry and metaphor in the world, but just know that and make lean into that if it's yours. All right, last
Nice.
question.
Okay.
We're both going to answer it. You're going to go first. What's
Perfect.
the one thing you can do while drafting that will make editing easier for yourself and or a hired editor?
Oh, good answer. Good question. Good answer. I'm already
You,
labeling.
you've already
We're
decided
done.
that you're going to give a good
We're
answer.
done. We're done.
All
It's
right,
over.
well,
No. Um,
dialoguers, answer that question
answer that
yourself. We'll
question.
see you back next week.
Talk amongst yourselves. Um, yeah, so I would say know what you want out of the thing that you're writing. So
Mm,
because knowing what you want out of the thing that you're writing is going to shape your drafting and give your editor expectations. Is actually whenever I edit somebody, it's the first question I ask them. Like when somebody is, especially if I'm doing a whole book, like if somebody's like, "Hey, will you edit my book for me?" I'll ask like, what are your hopes for this book? What do you want out of this book? So, because if you're like, I want to make money with this book, well, then you need to be drafting to probably a specific genre that certain readers love, that you're like going to try to market to, right? If you're like, I want to win awards, well, then it's a totally different type of writing. If you're like, I want to write the book of my heart, or I want to tell a story about grief, or I want to tell a story about this, or I really want to see these two characters do this, well, then we're creating art and there's a different approach to it. And as an editor, if you tell me I want to make money out of this book, I'm going to edit it differently than if you tell me this is a work of my heart and my art. And if you tell me like this is a work of my heart, it's the book that's been on my mind forever, and I want to write, I have in my head these two characters falling in love. Then my next question is going to be like, okay, so what do you love about what you've written so far? Right? Like so that I know where to like gauge my editing. But if you're like, I'm writing a romance that I want to be a bestseller on Amazon, we'll be like, okay, what kind of romance are we talking about? Like what's the level of spice we're going for? Like what are your comps? Like what are we moving toward? Like so those are they're like what you're writing this book for, I think directs your drafting and your editing in very clear, distinct ways.
That was a good answer.
Go.
That was a good answer. I like that. Um, I would say that if you are anticipating editing yourself, the thing that you can do while you're drafting is be honest about what needs to be edited later. There are lots of authors who are like, this chapter is perfect, nothing needs to change, it's terrific. Don't be that author because you're probably not as close as you think you are.
Or if
On
you
the other
believe that, do tell
hand,
me.
on the
Like,
other
don't set me
hand,
up for failure. Don't give me the book and be like, chapter 5 is perfect, but I'm not
see,
going to tell you I think it's
now,
perfect.
no, I'm
I
saying
want to know.
this is if you're editing for yourself. Like
Yeah,
if you're
okay. If you're
preparing for your
editing for
own,
yourself, that's
right?
yeah. Okay.
On the other
Sorry, I
side of
misunderstood
it,
your answer.
yeah, no, I'll get to hired editor.
Okay.
You did a good job with hired editor, so I started
Sorry.
with yourself.
Perfect.
That's okay. I will forgive you for not listening. Okay. On the other hand, don't be the person who's like, oh, this is so bad. I'm probably not going to be able to use this. There's nothing useful.
Sorry.
Oh, for those of you who are listening and not watching, I looked over at the question list and I looked back and Jeff was like lowering himself in his chair. This is a really good answer, Jeff, and you keep distracting
I'm
me. Now I'm going to
sorry.
start
I'm
all over.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Be
I'll listen
honest.
this time.
Don't overestimate your abilities and don't underestimate your abilities. Find the thing that is actually working and lean into that. Find the thing that's not working and be honest about that. There is something great in your story. You might not be able to wholly articulate it right now, but there is something, hold on to that, but then also be honest about the other part. So when you go back to do it yourself and you're reading it later, you have an idea of where you need to start and move forward. Um, Working with a hired editor, what can you do to make it easier? Similar to what Jeff was saying, about like know what you want to do with it, know where you want your focus to be and how much help you want from the editor. We have worked with people who are like, rewrite this for me. And we've worked with people who are like, just give me high level notes. And we've worked with people who are like, give me the line edits. And we've worked with people who are like, give me everything. Kind of know what your reason for working with that editor is, not just what you want to do. Are you trying to learn or are you trying to get this thing ready for publication? So having an understanding of what you are trying to do, not just what your book or your story is trying to do,
Mhm.
can also really help your editor.
Yeah. Your first answer reminded me of the Jim Collins principle, the Stockdale principle, which is like have the humility to confront the brutal and honest facts while at the same time being optimistic that you can and will succeed no matter what happens. So like I think there's a yeah, I think
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that because I
I
thought
mean,
your
he's
answer was good.
almost as smart as I am. So
Yeah, well, he's kind of quoting you.
I mean, I kind of ghost wrote that book
He's
for
kind of
him.
quote. Yeah, you kind of go through Good to Great. That was really, it's your
I
memoir.
mean,
I know
it,
he says it's about all these other companies that
I
he
know.
studied with data that he like had a research team do.
No.
He just hung out for coffee with Laura
She that she paid for.
that she paid for. Well, I mean, you always do. You're like, hey, I'm going to
I
buy everybody
do.
coffee.
That's my
Um,
that is like my
you
love
actually do
language.
always pay.
It's my love language.
I know. Well,
I
that's
don't know.
one
It just
one of the thousand reasons it's great to be your friend.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. That makes
yeah.
up for saying that we've known each other for 20 years.
I
Also,
was also being honest. If you're going to work with an editor and you think one of your chapters is perfect, you better tell that editor before they start editing because I promise that just by the stupid luck of the draw, that'll be the chapter that they destroy. And so
that's
tell
true.
them beforehand.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Um, I just want to make it clear for anyone who is listening to this podcast for the first time, I do not think that I am smarter than anyone else. I know I said it, but I was totally joking. I
Yeah,
just
no,
need
no,
that to be
Laura. Yeah,
out into the
no,
world.
no. Yeah, we know. All right, Laura, any final thoughts?
Um, oh, I wasn't expecting final thoughts as a question. Um, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I do have a final thought today.
okay,
Yeah, but now I'm going to
okay.
make you wait for it while I actually conceptualize it. Do you have a final thought?
I'm just going to quote JP, our other dialogue doctor coach who isn't here, and just say, follow your dreams.
Jeeps. I was going to go that route. But I'm not as smart as JP is. So, um, I would say uh, writing is hard.
Ooh.
And there are lots of things to think about. I mean, we had 11 questions today, and you posted the questions like, I don't know, what, 2 days ago? The
I
opportunity
did
to
it on Monday.
put
It
in,
was four
I
days.
don't know what today is, Jeff.
Today's Thursday.
Oh, okay. Well, 4 days ago. What I'm saying is there were lots of questions presented in a short amount of time.
Hmm.
There is always something that you can learn. There's always ways that you can grow. There's always ways you can make your story better. You don't have to worry about that. Just enjoy the process a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it.
Nice. I
That
like
is
that.
my attempt at philosophy.
Fantastic final thought. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye, everybody.